Hello friends and welcome back to another video. Today we have not one but two pen unboxings, brand new pens to me. I have taken a peek at both because I wanted to compare these two pens specifically side by side because one is a Pro Gear Slim, one is a Wancher Pro Gear Body, and technically this is supposed to replace this. So let's unbox and see what we have. Let's start with this one here first. This is the Sailor Japanese Sweets collection or Wagashi collection, and I picked up the pen Sakuramochi. I love the packaging. It is just so cute. It really resembles opening a box of Japanese sweets, like a box of chocolates or something like that. Even down to this paper, it's typical of opening some candy that you get this paper there to protect. And here we have the pen. This one actually came with some ink. I am blanking out on the name of this ink right now, but we will swatch it later and I will put it up on screen. But I am so happy and excited for this pen. This pen really falls into the category of muted colors for me, but with enough brightness that it fits for spring and summer. So let's get the pen here. I really just loved the muted color of the body. I really appreciate the lighter gold on this. Sailor has between a yellow gold or a lighter champagne kind of gold color, a very faint pink, not too bright, but it is obvious that it's pink, and the traditional anchor nib, and on the inside, the grip section here is actually the same color throughout of the body. So this is the colorway of the pen. This is a Pro Gear Slim. I opted for a fine nib. I actually really wanted a medium nib, but I had no choice in purchasing the fine. And this color is just so beautiful. I love this kind of green. The green that I had before was my Manyu Nuts, also a Pro Gear Slim, and you can see the semblance in color there, the mutedness, the softness of the color, and then here is actually the yellow gold trim compared to the lighter champagne kind of gold trim. And here you can see just how well they complement each other, almost like they're in the same color family. I purchased the Sakuramochi pen with the intention of it being my matcha quote unquote pen. I love coffee. I have a coffee pen. A lot of my brown pens follow that vintage coffee warm color palette. And I also love matcha. So I have always been on the hunt for a pen that could resemble matcha for me. And when I saw this one, I really thought, it fit the bill. And so I purchased it with Endless Pens and have received it this week. And what better timing for it to have come right alongside my matcha pen from Wancher. So let's put this one away so we can let this next pen shine. And this one here is by Wancher, and it is unofficially a Sailor. Nowhere on the listing or on the branding of the pen does it say that it's a Sailor, but we can tell it looks like a Sailor. So let's go ahead and unbox this. I was not expecting such a beautiful package, number one, but I am, what a novelty it is to have this box here. The fact that it is on the wood there is really nice, so you don't have any loose papers there. And here we have the converter with two ink cartridges, and just look how pretty this pen sleeve is. I was really surprised that it came with a pen sleeve at all. And now the moment of truth. We have here the Wancher Matcha pen, and Wancher offers 18 karat gold nibs. They have other carats in nibs such as 21K as well, but Wancher specifically is a little bit known for having 18 carats. So nowhere on here does it say it's a Sailor, but it looks like a Sailor, right? So the finial is Wancher's logo and symbol there. On the band here, it says Wancher made in Japan, or it says Wancher made in Japan. I read that the wrong way. And it is the yellow gold trim. We have cream or ivory colored finials. There is some speckle to the body, some glitter and shine. And when we get to the nib, it says Wancher 18K 750, and I opted for a medium nib, and it has the Wancher logo engraved on the nib there. So again, nowhere on this does it say it's a sailor, but it looks like a sailor. And the pen itself is part of a T series. This is the first pen of the series, and it is named Matcha, and it looks just like matcha. So now let's talk about these two new pens together. Let's see if I can get them to sit pretty. Maybe not with my desk, but here we have them side by side. Obviously you can see the size difference with the Pro Gear body and the Pro Gear Slim of the Sakuramochi. So right next to each other, there is a significant difference in green and tone if we don't consider that they have completely different trims altogether. But with Sakuramochi, with it being my matcha pen in mind, and then having purchased a officially named matcha pen and inspired by matcha, you know, my thought process was, okay, I had pre-ordered this months ago. It finally arrived, and I purchased this, I believe, Thursday or Friday, maybe even Saturday of last week, and it arrived on a Wednesday, so within 2-3 business days, and I'm so shocked and so happy to have received it so fast because it allows me time to really compare them side by side. This one I did receive just the day before the matcha pen, and so I get to really compare them together because this, you know, I had named it my matcha pen. So anyways, waiting for this pen, I was 99% sure I was going to sell this. Number one, because I'm trying to steer away from Pro Gear Slims. And number two, it was not in my first nib of choice. My first nib of choice for this pen was a medium because I would have wanted to been able to use a light pink, and lighter ink colors require broader nibs in order to really see the color and let the color shine on its own. It would be really difficult to ink a very light pink to match the Sakura part of this pen with a fine nib. So those two things led me to ultimately decide, okay, I'm going to sell this pen once it arrives and put the money that I got from this pen or used to order this pen towards this Wancher pen, which was significantly double, if not double, the price of the Sakuramochi. So I opened the matcha pen, and I am just so shocked at how different it is. I mean, even in the stock photos, they looked so different, but I was so sure I was going to sell the Sakuramochi, and here I am seeing just how different they are, just how beautiful the Sakuramochi is on its own, and I just don't think I can get rid of it. I don't see how I could get rid of this. It dawned on me before in preparing for this video that what this pen actually reminds me of is Dragon's Palace. It's not quite the same tone. I think Dragon's Palace leans more blue, but in having the matcha next to it, I can kind of see the blue-green to the Sakuramochi. And so it is different enough between the greens in my collection that, you know, why not keep it? Why not? It fits right in. It is different enough that it shines out on its own. and I have different nib sizes. So I technically have a grain for every nib size. Here is a better look at the 3 pens. Even just between the 2 pens with yellow gold, it is very different. I wouldn't normally gravitate towards a green this color, but it being the name Matcha really just gets to me. I am a sucker for the names of things, and so if it looks true to it, I will keep it, and it does. It is on point with matcha. I wish I brought my matcha powder up here with me just to show you how close and on point it is with the color of matcha. Anyways, I have some inks here. I actually have the Matcha Latte ink by Sailor, a blue-black limited ink, and I am going to ink, of course, my matcha pen. I actually have this ink currently in my 𝘎𝘦𝘢𝘕. I am going to dip and test the ink that comes with the Sakuramochi, and I will figure out the name of that, and we will do a little writing sample. I have the Sailor Shirakashi ink that goes with the 𝘎𝘕𝘢𝘕. I don't have a label on it. I had a casualty and the label scraped off, but this I looked up is Sailor Shikiori Miruai, and that comes with the Sakuramochi pen. And so we are going to go ahead and first do some swatch cards. I took a look and I actually don't have an ink swatch card for the Shirakashi ink, so might as well do all of that here. This is on MD paper, and then I will do a writing sample on Hobonichi Sanzen paper. I realize now that I have not been showing anything of what I've been doing, but here is the first swatch. Next, let's do Sailor Shikiori Miruai. Miruai. I was saying it wrong. Miruai. Wow, this definitely has some more blue to it. Very I know this ink did not come with the matcha pen, but out of all three, I think it's the closest match. So I'll only be doing a writing sample for the Sakuramochi and the Matcha Wancher pen because I already have 𝘎𝘢𝘢𝘳𝘬𝘧𝘳 inked with something right now, and I don't want to have to clean that out to include that when it's not part of today's pen unboxing, but it is great to color compare for that. So here I'm going to use the Sakuramochi pen now with the 𝘕𝘠𝘬 ink. And I have this in a fine nib. This fine writes great right off the bat. I have other fine nibs in Pro Gear size actually. This will be my first fine in a Pro Gear Slim, and it writes so well, so smooth right off the bat, not super scratchy. I actually think my 𝘎𝘦𝘢𝘳𝘬𝘧𝘳 home pen is way more scratchier than this. And then of course extra fine is very, very scratchy. But this fine nib is really pleasant. I know Sailor Shikiori inks can be really, really wet, so I wonder if it is the ink. My Sailor Manyo Shirakashi ink is also really, really wet when it is in the medium fine, and it just glides so smoothly. So this was a really nice writing experience with this fine nib. I was honestly really bummed that I had to get this pen in a fine nib. My plans were, I have actually a medium fine nib from a Sailor pen that cracked and broke, and so I kept the spare nib, and my thought was, okay, if I really love the pen that much, I can always swap the nib out. But now that I have these 3 muted green pens, or 3 green Sailors, you know, I think I can keep this pen, and the fine is different enough from the 3 of them that it has a place in my collection. It would be interesting to see what it would look like though, trying to match the pink of this finial. It's really hard to capture in this light, but I'm already thinking maybe Ferris wheel press fluttering heart, maybe. But let's move on and see what the 18-karat nib feels like on the Wancher Matcha. I think this pairing is already pretty spot on. I'm really excited to see how it looks like out of a medium nib, because I currently have Sailor Matcha Latte inked in a medium fine in my 𝘎𝘢𝘢𝘢𝘳𝑬𝑡𝑠. This is not a Sailor. Scratch that. Okay, so during the writing samples, I do point my mic to the paper so that you can hear all of that contact on paper. But contrary to, what it sounds like, it is not scratchy at all. So what you hear is really not from the nib, but just the paper as it glides. And Sanzen paper seems a little more fibery than Tomoe River paper when I used it last year. But overall, it was very smooth. It writes just like my other Sailor medium. This is my second medium. It's going to be hard not to call this a Sailor, but I think you guys know what I mean. If I say it's a Sailor, it pretty much is, right? So it writes just like my other Sailor medium. I'm really happy with it. I just love the pairing with the ink. Much closer it could get, but I'm happy with that pairing, even just with the shading of the bottle here. Looks really good. So this nib is 18 karat, and I don't know, honestly, I don't know if there's a huge difference in the experience and feel of a 21K. So I really want to touch on the writing experience of the 18K nib, but in order to do so, I'm going to write side by side with them with my one and only other medium, and it is in a 21K nib. This is actually a Wancher also, Sailor Wancher collaboration, and this is turquoise with a bicolor nib. So I'm going to go ahead and just scribble away, try and focus in on the tactile experience and how they feel so I can really compare, is there a difference between the 18K and the 21K? Okay, having written with them back to back, I can feel a difference if I'm only comparing between these two pens. And interestingly enough, the 18K medium seems to be a lot wetter flowing. Maybe it's the ink than the Sailor Wancher turquoise, and that just might be because this has a diamine ink, which to me is on the drier side. Here are the two mediums. I'm really glad I was able to do this comparison and that they were both 21K, not 21K, both medium nibs. And so I will say that the 18K, while it is smooth, it does have a little bit of feedback to it. It's not scratchy at all, but it definitely feels like you're writing on a fibrous paper. Whereas the 21K medium, I get no feeling like it's the paper at all. It is super glassy and smooth, which is interesting because the writing experience with the diamine ink felt dry, yet with the 21K it was still glassy. And then the writing experience with the Sailor ink was very wet, but you still had that tactile feel against the paper. So I hope I'm making sense. I really don't talk about fountain pen and paper analysis at all. This is probably the first time I've been so pronounced in trying to explain the writing sensation and feel. So I hope you can forgive me there and I will get better. But there's definitely a difference. I personally like Sailor's writing experience, obviously. I have all nib sizes from medium, medium fine to fine, and one extra fine. So I obviously like them if I keep buying them and keep getting multiple pens in the same nibs. And so with that, the 18K was definitely different enough from the 21K, but 21K is still superior, obviously. So interesting. The 14K is pretty standard in its grit and feedback and toothiness, and the 18K still has that, but not so resistant, I would say. And then 21K is just smooth butter and like skates across the paper. So I hope that gives some kind of comparison between the two, between the three rather different gold finishes between 14K, 18K now, and the 21K. So I hope you enjoyed this unboxing, this ink swatching, and writing sample comparison. I am extremely happy with my 3 pens now. I really don't know how I'm going to be able to get rid of the Sakuramochi fine now that it is with me in person. And, you know, I think those are going to be my famous last words always. When I purchase something, I can always sell it. And then when it gets in my hands, no, I do not. But thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments about either pen, the Sakuramochi pen or the Matcha pen. Did you pick either of them up? Do you have a preference for Pro Gear Slim or Pro Gear? And what do you do when you come across a colorway but it's not exactly checking all the boxes? Because that was Sakuramochi for me. It checked everything off in terms of what I love in color, in performance, and it just was in a slim body. I would have really loved for it to be in a Pro Gear body, but now having it, now writing with it, I will definitely find a use for it in my collection. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.